Hello and welcome to the Amateur Austenite. My name is Frances Duncan. I am an author and the founder of the Jane Austen Society of New Zealand. However, I am underqualified for my job as I am and have always been an enthusiastic amateur. Today we're going to be discussing Chapter 23 of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. In Chapter 23, Sir William announces the engagement between his daughter Charlotte and Mr. Collins. And as expected, Mrs. Bennet has a bit of a fit about it. So does Lydia. It's actually quite a good description of Lydia. Always unguarded and often uncivil, she boisterously exclaimed, "Good Lord, Sir William, how can you tell such a story? Do you not know that Mr. Collins wants to marry Lizzie?" And Sir William's good breeding carried him through it all. Mrs. Bennet blames Elizabeth. Elizabeth was the real cause of all the mischief. A week elapsed before she could see Elizabeth without scolding her. A month passed away before she could speak to Sir William and Lady Lucas without being rude. And many months were gone before she could at all forgive her daughter. There is a bit of restraint in the friendship between Charlotte and Elizabeth. They can't be as open as they were previously with each other, which is such a shame. But there's also a restraint between Elizabeth and Jane now. They never allude to the subject of Mr. Bingley, who they think the efforts of his unfeeling sisters and his overpowering friend and the amusements of London and the attractions of Miss Darcy are keeping him away. But they won't talk about it together. Elizabeth doesn't want to upset Jane. Mr. Collins leaves and returns and spends most of his time at Lucas Lodge. Mrs. Bennet was in a most pitiable state. This chapter marks the end of the first volume. So when this book was first published, it was published in 3 volumes. So 3 separate books. And this is the end of the first one. So why would you end volume 1 here? There are several unanswered questions. Will Mrs. Bennet ever talk to Lizzie again? Will Bingley return? Will Jane marry Bingley? And will Charlotte really marry Mr. Collins? Because at this point she hasn't. I think there's still a little bit of hope that she might not, but we know that she will. Poor Mrs. Bennet. Mr. Collins' return into Hertfordshire was no longer a matter of pleasure to her. And he still has to stay with them. How awful for him, really, to be staying with people and not be welcome. But he does spend most of his time at Lucas Lodge, so maybe it's okay for him. And that is my summary of Chapter 23 of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. You have been listening to the Amateur Austenite. My name is Frances Duncan. You can find me at francesduncanwrites.com and on Twitter at Frances_Duncan. Thank you for listening, and I wish you happy reading.